So the first fight that's on the card, this one is do or die at 170 pounds. We have a couple of guys that aren't from the States, but they're both training in South Florida. The former Deep and Pancrase man, it is Takashi Sato. He's going to be taking on the answer, Themba Gorimbo, who we had him build his last time out in his UFC debut out of Johannesburg. That was where he was training, getting ready. We know he's originally from Zimbabwe. He found so much success, not just in life, but in mixed martial arts there in South Africa. But when you have a look at the fight here, I mean, Matt, like, for Themba Gorimbo, really struggled in that debut when he was taking on one AJ Fletcher, the Ghost. And I mean, for Fletcher, it's kind of weird because he was 0-2 in the UFC to that point. And I know the level of competition kind of all over the place, but if you look at it for AJ Fletcher, more than a 2-1 favorite at 0-2 against the debuting fighter in Themba Gorimbo. And he had a ton of success against Gorimbo. And everything that we kind of said about Gorimbo coming into the UFC pretty well played out as true in that debut. The wrestling offense was there. The wrestling defense wasn't there. The striking offense was there. The striking defense wasn't there. And in a matchup like this, Matt, against Takashi Sato, who is a second dan in judo, second dan black belt in judo, you see it out of Takashi Sato. He's on a 3-fight losing streak, hasn't won in 3 years, but Takashi Sato in every single fight is about the same. I'm southpaw, I wait, I try and land a straight left.
He's one of those fighters where if you just want to talk about his skill set, I don't have a lot of negatives to take from it, right? He does do pretty much everything in MMA to at least an acceptable level, right? It's just like you bring up. It's the output. It's kind of his ability to just kind of stand there and look in a mirror, and that's the frustrating thing for Sato. When he's throwing a lot of strikes, the strikes look great, and he's a very accurate striker from the outside, but there's a big part of me that thinks Themba can just crash the distance, get on the inside, and make it ugly for Sato, because again, he's a guy who has great technique from the outside. He does have good elbows on the inside. I'm not saying he's a 0 on the inside, but it's a place he can feel uncomfortable in, and we've seen him get cracked by some big shots. But I'm going to be curious to see who's going to win out in a lot of these longer range striking exchanges, because for Sato, he does have kicks on his side, but it comes down to, like you had brought up, is he going to use them? Because if he just stands there with a lot of wasted movement with nothing behind his punches, I could see a world where Themba comes in and does get the win. But I agree with everything you said. You kind of do have to go back and look at our preview for Themba's UFC debut, because we were quite critical on him, and he did lose to AJ Fletcher, who has kind of looked okay even in some of his losses, to be completely fair to Fletcher. I just feel like, for me, my initial reaction was, A, Sato's 6 years older than him, but I also think he's going to win. And then they're the same age, and the more I thought about it, the more I do hate it how every time I think about Takashi Sato, it's, hey, I think about all the things he could be doing more of, and I think less about the positives in his skill set.
And that's kind of the thing. Like, a lot of blitzes out of a guy like Themba Gorimbo, to where Takashi Sato is going to try and gauge that and land counters off of those blitzes, and we've seen it from Sato. I mean, he could have got the opportunity to come into the UFC. He fought for the Pancrase title against Glyco Franca, who only had the 3 fights in the UFC after winning the Ultimate Fighter. He loses that fight in the 4th round by submission. Then he goes out there his next time out. Main events the next Pancrase show against Matt Vale. And in that one, Vale blitzes forward. Takashi lands that straight left shot, ends up dropping Vale, and then it's Sato into the UFC. And if you look at the wins that Sato has in the UFC, he finishes Ben Saunders, who was on a streak to losing 4 fights in a row and getting out of the UFC. His other win is against Jason Witt. What does he land? That straight left and finishes them. And the losses are against decent fighters. But again, if you blitz Takashi Sato, you have a big opportunity to get finished. Over in the comments section, Dirty Reg, both guys are bad here, but I got to side with Gorimbo. And for Gorimbo, former EFC lightweight title challenger, former EFC welterweight champ. If we do have a look, Matt, at Topology for the total votes on this one, surprise us there to you. They're pick'em odds in this one. I'm going to say over under 60% for the answer, Frankie Edgar, Themba Gorimbo.
I'll say under.
You're going to say under? It's over. So 918 total votes, 65% Gorimbo, 35% by decision, 47% by knockout for the 35% that have Sato, 51% by decision, 38% by knockout. And I see it there too by Chandler Witt saying a lot of fights on this card are going to be 50-50. When it does come down to this fight, Matt, I mean, Themba Gorimbo has switched things up. I know I talked about the training. He's now at MMA Masters, training with Colby Covington. He posts oddly worded tweets on his Twitter account, which is just, yeah, it is what it is. But when it does come to Themba Gorimbo, my favorite thing about him, you go to the UFC.com Q&A section, the question, when and why did you start fighting? The answer, in 2010 after watching the movie Never Back Down. Was he a big fan of Amber Heard, do you think?
How many Monster Energies does this guy drink? Like, he sounds like the stereotype of every guy outside of a Buffalo Wild Wings.
Takashi Sato is on a terrible run. I think he counters Themba Gorimbo and beats him by knockout in this fight.
I think he's going to have a lot of opportunities too, but I'm going to zag a little bit. I have Gorimbo because I think he's going to make him pay before he's going to be able to land those counters. I don't discredit anything you said. I agree with your method of him winning. I do think those counters are going to be available. I just think it's going to take him a couple more half steps to really set those counters up, and I think Themba can make him pay on the in-betweens. Now, if I get this one wrong, I'm not going to feel that stupid, though. I have this very much down the middle. It's a very close fight.
It should be a very interesting fight. Split on the pick in this one. Themba Gorimbo taking on Takashi Sato. Let us know down below in the comments section who you have. Next up, Matt, it's Natalia Silva taking on Victoria Leonardo. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.